I want to bring in now a very special guest. She's joining us from Orlando, Florida. She's a jury consultant and a human behavior expert. Susan Constantine is here. Susan, good morning. It's always so great to talk to you. Thanks for waking up early for us today. So
You're welcome.
Yeah, watching Mark Ball there, the former law partner, and then watching Alec Murdaugh react to him. Tell us what you were picking up on, if you would, please.
Okay, so when I'm analyzing someone, I'm taking into consideration the content, what's being shared right at that precise moment. Within 5 to 7 seconds, I'm looking for these little clusters, right? So we see him talking as he's leading up to what he actually saw with his skull. You'll see Alec Murdaugh's head turned down, right? That shame. He's recalling also. So you can see all of that grief that's now you see in the bottom region of his face. His skin becomes very flushed. Watch when he, right here, and he'll turn his head down right there. Shame, disgust, despair, sadness. So what it is that he's recalling what he saw. Now this is when he collapses. And a lot of times we see this when a person has surrendered. So when we find somebody that's been guilty of a crime, let's say in a police investigation, when the game is up, they collapse forward. But then you see him just kind of shaking his head, just like in disbelief, like he just can't believe. It's a form of pacifying. But I really think, Julie, that he is recalling it, and he in himself, it's like looking at himself outside of himself, just cannot believe what he had done. What he had created, what he had done to his own son was overwhelming. And I think he's seeing and he's feeling the grief of that, of his own hands.
Susan, appreciate it so much. It's fascinating to hear you analyze him, and just as someone who's a watcher of this trial, not a human behavior expert as you are, I'm noticing the pattern is Paul. He gets like this when Paul is brought up. Anytime it's Paul, that's what he's looking like. The crying, sometimes even liquid coming out of his nose, all of that. There was a different display from him of emotion when Buster took the stand. So let's turn to that if we can, please. We're gonna show some video. Tell us what you were picking up on when his only surviving son, Buster, was on the stand. So here's the video, Susan, and there's no sound to it, just video as I understand it. But it was like this smile on his face for much of the time.
Yes. So what he's doing right here, first of all, he likes what he's saying. So he's feeling right now that Buster is his advocate, and he's pleased. So that's what you see, what we call it's not a micro expression, it's actually a full range expression, because his eyes are more alert. His eyes are blinking at a normal rate. So he's feeling very comfortable listening to Buster as he is talking to, of course, the jury and to the attorneys. So that smile is that he is pleased with what he is hearing.
Well, this is great. And so many of our courties, Susan, picked up on what you're saying. I'm sure they're very pleased to hear this, too. I was seeing tweets about him beaming with pride. Somebody said it looks like Buster's given a graduation speech, and proud dad is in the audience, can't stop smiling.
Yes.
So that was, what you're telling us he must have been feeling. So then there was a moment, this still photograph really kind of went viral on social media. This was caught during a break. By one of the photographers in the camera for during the pool camera in the courtroom. And, we know a defendant, you know this, Susan, you're a jury consultant, they're not allowed to touch any witnesses, even if it is father-son, but there is touching here. Notice he's not handcuffed. Does this touch suggest anything to you, please?
Yes, well, first of all, this is kind of in that intimate zone. So you wouldn't allow anybody to touch you in that place unless somebody was very close to you. So it was almost discreet, right? So he kind of comes up really close behind Buster, thinking that maybe someone wouldn't see it. Buster, of course, his head is down, so he's just disconnecting because he's trying to show that he's being emotionally detached and that he's not showing favoritism. Dad's walking away, head down, shame, shame, shame. You can see the shame in his body language, and he's trying to create that emotional connection with Buster by tapping him or touching him on the lower thigh area.
This is super helpful, Susan. I want you to take a look, please, with us at Alec Murdaugh's third police interview, where the investigator asks him very frankly if he killed his wife and his son. Let's look at that moment, and then we'll get your reaction on the other side.
Did you kill Maggie?
No. Did I kill my wife?
Yes, sir.
No, David.
Do you know who did?
No, I do not know who did.
Did you kill Paul?
No, I did not kill Paul.
Do you know who did?
No, sir, I do not know who did.
Okay, Susan, what do you think, please?
Right off the bat, you know, he's asking a question. He says, did I kill his son and wife? Anytime in statement analysis you have somebody that asks you the question, right? Because all he had to say was yes or no. Then he uses contractures. I did not. You know, we saw that was Clinton. I did not have sex with that woman, Monica Lewinsky. Now, all he had to say was no, or I didn't. But also look at his body language, very collapsed. He's bracing himself. He's rocking back and forth. He is really feeling totally uncomfortable, and he's very guarded. So if he were honest, he would have opened up his body language. And also, if someone had asked you that question, the normal reaction would be to be ticked off. No, I didn't do it. No, I didn't kill my son. No, I didn't kill my wife, and become angry. So people that are accused get angry. They don't take this passive role and collapse because he's looking very guarded and very suspect to me.
I appreciate this, Susan. You know, it makes me think of kind of a follow-up for you. I feel like in life, and I think our courties can relate to this, I'm sure you can relate to this just, you know, as a person, not even as a human behavior expert, but one of the worst things sometimes is if somebody doesn't believe us, if we're being accused of something and we're not being believed, and you want to convince someone, and you're begging and pleading, saying, you got to believe me, I didn't do this, I didn't, and you're trying so hard to convince someone, and here I keep thinking about how if he didn't do these things, you know, we know the state's accusing him, right? They're making the accusations, it's not us. But here he's facing the most serious charges you can face in our criminal justice system with the two people arguably most close to him, you know, his wife and his son. You would think somewhere along the line in one of these interviews, it would be like, I didn't do this. If you say I didn't, you never hear that, do you? Your thoughts on that, please, Susan.
Okay, so let's kind of back up a little bit, Julie, because there are people that look guilty without being guilty. Okay, that's called the Othello. That's called the Othello error, and it's actually people who give up all kinds of symptoms of deceptiveness because they have a fear of being disbelieved. I don't think this is the case here. Okay, so with him, what he should be doing is uncrossing his arms, right? Because now you're in fight or flight. You're wanting to expand because you're confident in what you know. I didn't do it. You're going to come towards the person and convince rather than convey. You don't collapse and become quiet. That is very suspect. So anyway, I hope that answered your question.
No, it does. Thank you. And it's exactly kind of like what I was doing when I was demonstrating. Like you go forward, you go toward the person. Please believe me, I didn't do this. Susan Constantine, I could talk to you all day. Thank you so much for making time for us. We want to talk to you more as this trial continues progressing, especially if Alec Murdaugh takes the witness stand, which we might find out more about that today. Susan, thank you kindly. See you soon.